Welcome back to Red Eye Story Hour for Tales Told After Midnight. And we are continuing with the second part of Chapter 2 from the novel Outcast in the Mountain Warrior series. As I stumbled out of the bar, I felt the alcohol weighing heavily on my body. In a way, when leaving a bar, I sometimes felt like I was beer itself being poured out of the building. Tonight my legs had a hard time keeping up with the intoxicated energy of my mind as I poured into the street with the flowing crowd. However, the heaviness did not weigh down my thoughts. I felt like an 18-year-old again in my drunkenness. I felt alive. Drinking had made me feel that way for a few months as a teen. Then it became a drudgery of numbness where I chased that energy to no avail. Suddenly, I wanted nothing to do with alcohol or anything else to numb me. I wanted to experience life to the fullest. I drunkenly vowed off alcohol forever. I wanted to be somebody. Tommy and I flowed with the mob of pedestrians, heading out of the mandated closing time. The streets and sidewalks alike were packed with herds of partiers, ignoring the recommended social distancing. No one except those with immense power had operating cars these days. The only cars to be seen were abandoned and looted wrecks on the side of the road. Most buildings that towered over the people had shattered windows that would probably never be replaced. Signs that warned of martial law had faded to the point of being largely illegible. The list of rules were forgotten, other than not doing something stupid and standing out to the paramilitary police. You did not want them to notice you in any way. I shook my head as I saw some protesters who had odd qualities of both the hippie and punk cultures. They stood ahead of us carrying signs that said, "Free the Forbidden Zone," and "The Outlanders are our kindred." I understood and in a way respected their love for others, but they needed to accept reality. As long as the virus ravaged the quarantined area, it would stay quarantined. I hated to sound callous, but that was the reality. People were now headed home or to private, illegal, after-hours club, their feet crunching on the shattered glass that littered all the sidewalks. Occasionally, people would come up and congratulate my friend Tommy. He was definitely a rising star, which only frustrated my own desire to shoot through the sky. "Dude, I can do it. I can," I slurred loudly in Tommy's ear while we walked down the sidewalk. I stumbled and held onto his shoulder for support. I knew I looked like the typical idiot drunk, but I could not let this go. I feared waking up sober, forgetting this drive in me, and continuing to live simply and meaninglessly until I died. Tommy stopped, righted me so I stood up straight, and brushed his collar like my drunken stupidity might leave a stain on his nice suit. He frowned, looked me over, and simply said, "You are drunk." That triggered something in me. He wasn't taking me seriously. As we walked to his government-issued Lexus, I kept spilling out how much money I could make him as a journalist on the inside. He kept brushing it off and rubbing my face in every past failure. It was infuriating me. It made my resolve all the more concrete. I caught the glimmer of humor in his eyes and realized that he was intentionally provoking me. Tommy didn't just rise up in politics and entertainment without knowing how to evoke passion from people. Just what he was up to didn't dawn on me until later, but then it was too late. Tommy stopped walking and grabbed both of my shoulders with his hands and looked me in the eyes. Only someone with passion and resolve could pull off something like this, he challenged. You have neither. I returned his stance and grabbed both of his shoulders with my hands and glared right back at him. Dude, that's the old me. I gotta do this. This is my last shot at something. Inside I cringed as I could feel my head bobbing with unsteady intoxication. I let go of him and cursed loudly in my drunkenness. I screamed my frustration at the night. I wanted to be taken seriously. The late-night mob stopped moving around us and looked at us. I noticed 2 police officers in their black paramilitary fatigues glaring at me. Their grip tightened on their sleek black assault rifles. He's fine, Tommy called out. He's just had a bit too much of a good time." "The hell I am. I'm not drunk. You're not listening to me." I gave Tommy a rough shove. Before I could yell or do anything stupid, the cops descended on me like attack dogs. Each one had a hold of both of my arms until I realized the trouble I was in. I was going to get hauled away. We were in an extended period of martial law, after all. They were supposed to keep the peace at all cost, and they were allowed to paradoxically use any brutality to enforce it. I looked at their rifles dangling from their straps. I tried to remember some rifle disarm that I had half-assed learned in a martial arts class. Tommy could see the wild spark in my eyes. The look he gave me stifled any stupid attempt at escape. Tommy stepped forward. One of the officers let go of me and pointed his rifle at Tommy and barked, "Step back, or you'll join 'em." Gentlemen, Tommy said calmly as he showed a badge that seemed to magically appear in his outstretched hand. I later found out that Tommy had rigged a contraption up his sleeve so that his badge would slip into his hand when he activated a solenoid. Reaching too quickly for your ID could earn you a bullet from a spastic trigger finger protected by qualified immunity, and badges spoke much louder than words. The police seemed hypnotized for a moment. The pointed assault rifles drooped as if suffering from erectile dysfunction. Tommy's badge was just short of gaudy for the high-ranking. Had it not been for the fear it invoked, the overly ornate gold trim and a rainbow of colors actually would have been considered over the top. They reluctantly let go of me, but I wasn't free yet. One officer read the badge as the other one said, "Sir, we already tapped the emergency buttons on our transcoms. We have to bring someone in when reinforcements arrive. A false alarm can get us in trouble." The officer reading Tommy's badge said, "Oh my God, this is Thomas Lawrence, the director of..." The officer's lips quit moving. He looked at Tommy like he couldn't believe what he was seeing, like he was seeing an avatar of a god instead. "That's Senior Director Lawrence," Tommy corrected with a smile that didn't conceal his smugness. The officer stammered slightly as he said, "Of course, sir. I love your work. I'm your biggest fan." No one noticed me, so I rolled my eyes. The second one swore and then blurted, "That's a cool device you have, sir, with the mechanism that puts the badge in your hand like that." The look in his eyes was a mix of fear and the kind of excitement you get when meeting a celebrity. I desired this respect even more as I watched. "For safety purposes, I find the badge says more than words," Tommy said. The second one nodded anxiously. "Yeah, we accidentally shot some guy last week." The first cop interrupted with a rumbling clearing of his throat and glared at his partner. He then said, "Sir, the distress call for reinforcements." Tommy shrugged and held his palms upward and reasonably explained, "I'm sure you men could find someone else causing trouble to warrant that call." They nodded. We all wished each other a good evening. The police officers quickly stormed over to the protesters, carrying the signs of love for those trapped in the forbidden zone. I looked away as I experienced a bout of guilt. Not just because of what would happen to the protesters, but a guilt that I was more relieved that it wasn't me this time. I heard the scuffle and protest. Then I heard a few cries with crashing blows, and the protesters were silent as the crowd quickly looked away as if it never happened. I was a little confused. Tommy usually let me get arrested and bailed me out the next day when I did something stupid. That way he'd have a good story to tell on our next occasion out on the town. This went back to our grade school days. I wasn't just a class clown. I was the lead class clown. If there was something crazy to be done that would bring the entire class to laughter, I was the one everybody, especially Tommy, dared. However, I let it go. Everybody changes, gets better with time, including Tommy. Me, on the other hand, I seemed to be getting worse, but not tonight. I was devoted to making a change. We walked past a block of buildings without a single window that hadn't been busted out. I hated the sound of glass crunching under my worn-out shoes. In the past, shattered glass was quickly swept up. The glass under my shoes had probably been there for a year, and would probably still be there until a strong enough storm washed it all down the sewer drain. We were far enough from the cops, and I started up again, a little calmer. "Hey man, I'm serious," I said when we turned a corner on the street. "I know you are, Eric. In this moment." Tommy raised a hand before I could protest my sobriety. "If you are still serious when you can't crawl out of your hangover bed tomorrow, I will believe you." He shook his head as I still wanted to protest. He pointed a scolding finger in my face. Tomorrow." "Oh, all right. Hey, let's hit the underground," I said, mentioning our favorite after-hours joint. I pointed to my cell phone. I had checked the messages for the 20th time since almost going to jail. "Jennifer still won't return my phone call tonight," I complained. "I've heard rumors she's seeing someone on the side." When I confronted her, she neither confirmed nor denied it. She said it was just a friend. Tommy looked off in the distance and asked, "How did she neither confirm nor deny, but claimed it was a friend of yours at the same time? What were her exact words?" "I can't explain. You know women," I said. "That can't be true, that she's seeing a friend of yours," Tommy consoled. "Really?" I asked optimistically. "Of course," he said. "You don't have any friends." "Go to hell," I said, laughing. "It may be the best. You wouldn't want to get arrested again." "What for?" I asked, but already knowing his worn-out answer. "For dating somebody out of your league. She is too good looking for you, man," he laughed. Yeah. So what about the underground?" I asked, not yet ready to go home. Not yet ready to face the fact that my girlfriend wasn't going to return my phone calls this evening, or rather this morning. I remembered swearing booze off just a few minutes ago, and here I was wanting to go to another club. I was already drunk. I could follow through tomorrow when I was sober. Tommy stopped walking, and I realized we had arrived at his car. I looked at the emblem of his office. It resembled the presidential seal, except instead of a bald eagle, there was a drone with 4 rotor blades. Without the emblem on the doors, thieves would have stolen, picked apart, or at least vandalized the Lexus. Tommy seemed to consider his response. He finally said, with eyes still in the distance, "I'd like to go to the underground, but I can't. He hesitated as he unlocked the car. "Got a date with a good-looking woman?" I asked, nudging him with my elbow. "You could say that," he said as he climbed into the driver's seat. "Then say it," I goaded. "I have a late-night date with a very good-looking woman," Tommy said. He slammed the door in my face and drove away before I could ask for a lift to the underground. Instead of heading to the club, I turned and headed home. It was for the best that I got a good night's sleep and avoided the underground. My mind was still running at full speed. My dreams, goals, and ambitions were alive, almost screaming from the grave for vengeance against the years that I had neglected them. However, I realized the first thing I had to do was go home, get a good night's sleep, and sober up. I actually jogged to get home faster. I had never been afraid of the late night in the city before, but for some reason, I felt that vampire woman had marked me from the TV screen. She watched me from every broken window of every blighted building. I rushed home along the darkened streets as if chased by the hounds of insanity rather than the actual hounds of hell. I desired nothing more than to wake into the daylight when the looming dark objects of the night made sense.